Announcements, if you've not been in this room, the facilities are down the hall to the left. There's coffee. There may not be coffee, but there's theoretically there's coffee and treats behind me, so feel free if you need to get up and come back into this back room and help yourself to some refreshments. We are going to get started. One of my favorite things about this day is that students are able to mix with alums and other supporters of the program. And so one thing we wanted to do is give a select few of them a chance to tell you about the engaged work they're doing. We're really proud of the work we're doing to create a more engaged curriculum. And so we're just terribly proud of the work these students have done. So they're going to spend about 10 minutes apiece talking to you about some of the research and some of the work they're doing, and then we'll take a short break before we begin for lunch. So, welcome. Tori is going to begin, and I'll let them each introduce themselves when they come up.
Hi, my name is Cora Paul. I'm in my last semester here, so I'll be graduating in May. But I just was going to tell you guys a little bit about our diversity initiative that the LIS Student Association was involved with this year. So this actually kind of the seed was planted when Dr. O'Connor actually sent me to a conference over the summer, the Metrolina conference, and their theme was moving diversity into action. And that kind of really spoke to me as a student as to some of the gaps that I wasn't seeing in my own education about LIS. So that was one of the sparks that ignited the fire, essentially. And then we actually had our annual town hall meeting where Dr. O'Connor further presented some information that our program is 98% white and female. Shocker. So we were kind of just looking at how can we work on making our students more knowledgeable about diversity in libraries, because there's a history there and we all need to know it if we're going to be well-rounded LIS professionals. And how can we make these places a better place for everyone, not just for people who look like us. So that is what really began our journey onto this diversity initiative, and we paired it with the fact that our organization did turn 30 this year. So we're middle-aged.
You're very young. You're young adults.
Yes, we're very young, sprightly adults. So here's a little bit of introduction, but essentially we focus on 5 different components. The first thing we wanted to do was we wanted to up our social media. We just wanted to make people see us a little bit better, kind of provide more transparency about what we were doing in our programming at LISA, because we do serve students who are across the state, across the nation, sometimes even they're across the globe. So all of our students are pretty much online, and how do you reach them in a way that they can feel connected to? And one of the ways is through social media, and that's whether they engage with the post or not, that's kind of on their end, but what we choose to post is also very influential. So we try to provide some information about diverse materials for students to engage in their own libraries by authors from underrepresented groups about their own experiences and characters who don't look white or female, just because we believe that diversity in the materials sends a great message to the patrons who walk through a library every day. And it doesn't have to be a book per se, but showing these social media posts showed that we had a priority here, and this is how we were going to lay the groundwork. And then we also provided a welcome reception for our new diversity resident librarian at Jackson Libraries. Shout out to Gerald Holmes back there. He actually he's the diversity resident coordinator, and he was influential in bringing Deborah Young Caldwell to our campus. She is currently in her, she started in October? Okay, so she started in October, and we actually held a diversity resident welcome reception to, just say, hey, we're here, we see that you're here, we value your presence, let's get to know each other. And we're just kind of trying to bridge that gap between the department and the library across campus. And then we began a diverse speaker series, bringing people into our spaces and trying to get them to speak about topics about diversity in librarianship that they were interested in, involved in, or wanted to see more about. So we actually began with one of our own faculty members, Dr. Letitia Velez. She is a lecturer here with our department. I believe that is correct. For now, okay. I just didn't want to get her title wrong. But she actually is really, her research is involved in critical race theories and how that impacts libraries. So we had her talk about how we can be allies in libraries, because our efforts were devoted to people who are not of underrepresented groups, because our department is majority white. So we wanted to provide materials that say, this is what we need to be thinking about as a member of the majority. So Dr. Velez presented her talk on allyship and how we can become better allies in libraries. And then we also had Deborah talk to us again. We met her, we got to know her, we really loved her. Obviously, she's hard not to love. So we had her come and talk about what her experience was like so far as a diversity resident. And then talk a little bit more about diversity residencies in general, what they're created for, as well as her research into our institution itself, and why she ultimately decided to come to UNCG for her residency, and some of the things that she's looking forward to getting to work on during her time here and her plans for the future. Finally, we had, third, we had actually Gerald come talk about his area of expertise as a diversity resident librarian, diversity resident coordinator, apologies. And he is a reference, he's in our reference department over at Jackson Libraries, and he talked to us a little bit about his experience growing up in Greensboro, and how he actually managed to have a career as a librarian when libraries were not as inclusive as they are today. And so that was very eye-opening, and we got to learn more about the history of what he experienced, and so it was very extraordinary to hear his story. And then we also had Katrina Davis-Kendrick come speak to us. She is a librarian at USC Lancaster. It's very rural. What's the word? Campus. Yes, very rural campus. But she's doing a lot of great stuff in diversity scholarship in libraries, and she does some research on diversity resident morale and how that affects diversity residencies and their librarianship for the future. So, and then to wrap it up, we just started a critical librarianship book club, and essentially that's to fill in some of the gaps about our own knowledge bases. We want to learn more about critical theories, critical race theories, feminist pedagogies, and how they all relate to librarianship. We wanted to create an inclusive space for our students to come. They're very moderated, and there's also we do present them with a trigger warning for emotional topics, because it can be distressing to different people depending on their experiences. So we wanted to make sure it's inclusive, but also that people are aware that we can broach topics that are sensitive, and we record every meeting for posterity, and just so that people who weren't able to come can view those meetings in their own time and learn more about these different theories and how they affect librarianship. And then we also started a Black History Month story time that began in February with the Boys and Girls Club of Greensboro, and that's where we actually bring picture books in based on a theme that the Boys and Girls Club presents us with, and we just have a great time reading some stories to them. I actually went for our first one. It was very rewarding, because I had some children at the end who felt so empowered they were taking the book out of my hand and they're like, let me read to you. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was really cool, and that's just kind of a summary of what Lisa has been doing. So I'm going to pass it off to
background, and I'm also in my final semester here at UNCG, and I'll also be graduating in May. I'm very excited about that. And today we're presenting our poster that we did for Dr. Bird's collection management task last year.
My name is Mitchell Shores, and I'll be graduating this summer. And we also had Allison Cruz who worked with us, and she was unable to be here today because she was sick.
So we initially presented this poster at the Graduate Student History Conference last year. And this poster was supposed to be, so in this Graduate Student History Conference, there are a lot of future history teacher students. So this poster was actually also going to be a message to those future teachers, how librarian can help them when they are teaching a challenging topic. So our background for this poster was the North Carolina Runaway Slave Advertisements collection here at UNCG, and we found that this database is a really good source for teachers to teach students history with primary sources. And it was important for us to build a supplementary collection that would support a lesson plan for this topic. And we created a supplementary collection for middle school students, for high school students, and also for the teachers who would teach this challenging topic. And it was very important for us that we would find sources that would have different viewpoints, maybe also viewpoints that are not covered so well in those textbooks that they're working with. And we wanted a balanced collection and for sure not sugarcoating the topic. So we ended up creating a guide, and we have a separate tab for the middle school students, the high school students, and the teacher. And we have different sources. Some of them are free, some of them we purchase sources. And what else do we have? Yes, we have a bunch of good websites and blogs, so we really wanted to have a wide variety of different sources that can be used. Do you have anything to add?
I just remember, I think the one good resource I found was a website called Teaching Tolerance, which I think could be helpful for any educator, because it really addressed how to deal with sensitive topics such as enslavement or anything else that teachers might have trouble talking about with their students because of some of the reactions or the emotions that they may bring out. Any questions?
Sorry about that. Justin, is everyone? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Melissa Guzio, and I'm also in my final semester here. That's my mentality right now. So I actually do concentration in archives and special collections, specifically music, because my background is in music. And this past semester, I had the opportunity to process several collections related to our cello music collection here at UNCG under the wonderful mentorship and tutelage of Stacey Grimm. It's been absolutely amazing this semester. But we talked about the fact that with a lot of music collections, you think of the fact that you probably need to know music terminology, which is pretty easy for a lot of us who do music backgrounds. We can translate them through most languages because they all derive from Italian. So it doesn't matter if it's a Slavic-based language or really any of the European languages. Most of the terms are pretty easy to translate across the board. The problem you run into is when you are processing personal paper collections, especially for a lot of musicians who are from Europe. So I had the opportunity to work on Jana Schultz and Rob Mott's papers. Both of them English was not their main language. Schultz was actually from Hungary and Mott's was from Croatia. So we talked about the fact that archivists, especially in the US, don't really think about the fact that you need to have an understanding of a lot of languages, especially when you get past So for me, this was a very quick course in how to kind of sort of translate Hungarian, Croatian, versus Hebrew mixed in. Just a lot of different languages I wasn't used to, and especially with terms that I did not know. So we actually kept kind of a running chart of common terms that popped up quite frequently. Also the concept of the fact that across different cultures and languages, their date formats are different. I know we all think of how European, they do day, month, and then year, which we don't do here in the US, but we also had various examples where they would intermix Roman numerals, Arabic numerals. They would list the day of the week before the actual numerical date. A lot of different letters would also include the location of the writer, which it took me a while to realize that those were locations and not parts of the date. A little bit longer than I want to admit. But also the importance of not only being able to translate these materials for the proper arrangement of the collection and providing context for not only the collection itself, but for researchers, but also the fact that if you're working with new researchers or students who have to find a historical or situational context to these materials, you need to be able to translate them. So one of them was actually, Scholes was a part of the Roth Quartet, which traveled internationally fairly often. And this is actually a program from when they performed in Rome in 1935, which to anyone who's going to be looking at, they're like, oh, cool, they performed in Rome in 1935. But especially if you're using history of Western music students, you want to talk about the fact that, okay, 1935 in Italy, we're leading up to the rise of fascism and the importance of these leading up to World War II, which, if you actually translate the program, it actually says that this performance given in 1935 was hosted by the Charity Concert Institution and was adherent to the National Pastors Association. So we can now provide historical context to these materials to the students. So in summation, this was kind of just a discussion of the fact that especially since there's no literature out there about the importance of language, and it seems kind of common sense that you should have an understanding of foreign languages when working with materials. A lot of people don't actually think about how important this is here in the US, because a lot of general collections are in English, but especially with music collections, you're going to run into these foreign languages, and you need to be able to translate them to provide this context and to properly arrange these materials.
I'm quite the opposite. I'm in my first semester in the finance program. Tori assured me this would be very low stress and that all I had to do was have my poster there beside me. Lies. All right. So, again, I'm in my first semester, but I do work at the Kimball Library at Coastal Carolina University. I worked as a year in access services, and in January I moved into the marketing area. We do not have an outreach librarian. We were working on that. So in the meantime, that's me. And I blame Dr. Noah Munster. And one is our first projects we had to do, I discovered this whole aspect of library as a cultural place. And a place that is accessible to all, which makes it the perfect place to have cultural discussions and to really encourage cultural awareness. So what I did is I really began to look at our displays and exhibits that we host and see how can we change these? How can we make these more inclusive? How can we make these less marginalizing? And just really get the students talking, because they're probably not going to come in and pick up a book by a female author. But we might can show them something on a poster or in our display that gets them thinking. So these are our Women's History Month displays. We blew up pictures of women from all over the world into big posters, had them with quotes from them. And for both Women's History Month and Black History Month, we chose to use less books. We wanted to keep our books front and center, so if somebody saw something that interested them, they could take it and read it. And if you put it in a glass cabinet, they feel like it's off limits. So for our glass cabinet displays, we moved more toward pictures and items, more like a museum would be. We also included table toppers. So the students who may not come in and look at the exhibits themselves, they were going to sit and study with their friends and talk. It's right there in front of them. They can see it there. I catch them picking it up and looking at it and flipping it over. And it gets them talking. And they say, oh, did you see this? We also included our students in social media. We have them. You recommend to us, what's your favorite book by a women's author? The Women in Gender Studies partnered with us this year, and their students recommended books. The faculty and staff gave us works that they had published, and artists on campus created works of art. We displayed all of that with our Women's History Month. We also challenged our staff and faculty. So in the break room, we create trivia and quizzes that go on our boards, and it all flows in the same theme. Our social media has begun to flow as well. So if it's Women's History Month, and that's what all our exhibits are, we put trivia out there, we do facts, and it's really actually increased our traffic, and our statistics are going up. So moving forward, we're looking into September, and we're getting a When Humans Wore Skirts, excuse me, not humans, When Computers Wore Skirts, exhibit in, and the first thing out of the people in the, that have done this in the past, out of their mouths was, oh, well, we'll save it for Women's History Month. I was like, why? So we went ahead and we're scheduling it for September, and we're turning it into something a little bit bigger. We're going to play movies that go along with it. We're going to have host talks from the science department and the history department. We're going to have a book discussion. So we're trying to turn it into something bigger and make people think outside the box. Just because a woman did it doesn't mean it gets shoved to March every single year. Just because, just because African Americans were involved, it doesn't get shoved to February. So we're just trying to broaden and make people think outside the box and encourage discussion all over campus.
Well, actually, they were much faster than we thought. It's 11:30, so we still have probably about 20 or 30 minutes before lunch.